Hope you're doing great. We're going to talk about the Fed. We're going to talk about CPI. We're going to talk about inflation. Why do we talk about that on the Real Estate Channel? Because inflation is what is stopping everybody from buying a house. And it's true because it happens two different ways. Inflation is what's causing rates to go up because the Fed's got to raise rates to get control of the craziness that they caused. And then the second thing is everybody's just dealing with inflation in food, inflation, electricity, blah, 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 blah. We're dealing with all kinds of stuff. So I got two different stories, and it's very important to pay attention to this and then see how you can paint that picture of what's coming in the future. Now, the CPI numbers are coming out later this week, and I believe they're going to be still stubbornly high. They're going to be able to prove that the Fed broke the backbone of the consumer when it comes to buying electronics like big screen TVs. Last time you checked, how many times I went into a Best Buy the other day, and there were so many TVs, it was insane. There's no shortage of TVs, right? What is there a shortage of? Buyers. I went into Best Buy, and there were three people in the entire store yesterday. It blew my mind. 3 customers. Now, there is a lack of stuff, inventory. I think they're still having some problems getting certain things, but by and large, the one thing they really need really bad is customers, right? Because the consumer is tapped, and so they can't, if they can't buy big screen TVs, they definitely cannot buy houses right now at these insane prices. So what is going to happen? Well, if what I believe is going to happen, food and energy, those two main components that they really like to keep out of a lot of those metrics to make everything look like it's doing well and that you should keep buying, are going to be still stubbornly high. So the Fed is going to ultimately have to raise rates. Now, ironically, I believe that the Fed is not going to raise rates in September because what they're going to do is exactly what they did in June. They're going to sit there and go, hey, let's not raise in June. Because think about this. You got first quarter, January, February, March. Then you got April, May, June, and that was the last one, right? The last in the quarter. I got to count so I can remember it. But the last in the quarter, because they wanted the bad news to be not so bad. You see, as rates go up higher, it costs more for companies to borrow money. It's just a really big thing because then their forward guidance looks negative and it's just really bad for the economy. Stocks, sell off, all that kind of stuff. So if they lessen the blow, not raising 25 basis points every single month or the occasional, zinger of a 50 basis point hike, then what happens is they can lessen that blow. I actually believe that's what they're going to do in September. I do not think they're going to raise rates because they've tweaked these metrics enough they can go, hey, it's not so bad. So we can skip a month. But I believe that what's coming in the future is 50 basis point hikes. I know that sounds crazy, but let's just see if I'm right. So check this out of Yahoo Finance. Fed poll finds mostly stable inflation views, more financial worries in August. Americans' overall view on inflation were little changed in August, even as they predicted rising price increases for things like rent, homes, and food, while downgrading their views of their personal financial situations. The New York Fed reported on Monday. The bank said in its consumer sentiment survey, and that's very important, how does the consumer feel about what's going on in the economy? Have we lied to them enough? Have we deceived them enough? That's really what is going on here. The bank said that respondents see inflation a year from now at 3.6%, up from July's 3.5%. So they're just pretty much expecting status quo. Now, think about this. That is human emotion right there. That is that effect that hits our brains where we're like, okay, whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened today, if they're the same, then that's what's going to happen in the future. So they're just accepting it. Inflation is going to be the same. It's going to be higher than the 2% mandate. All right. So that's normalcy bias. That's it. The consumer has no concept of what's coming still. They are still confused. They are essentially now inoculated. They are now indoctrinated, for the lack of better terms, into this system of, oh, you're just going to get screwed even faster. Instead of us robbing you at 2% a year because we're going to rob you through inflation at 2%, it's now going to be 3.6%. So they've just sort of, okay, rolled over. How many of your family and friends, type 1 below, have just sort of rolled over? Well, this is how it's going to be. This is the new norm. And it just blows my mind how humans act. But they're going to get a smack in the face soon. Check this out. So they think it's going to be the same, 3.6% versus 3.5% in July. And while they project inflation 3 years from now will hit 0.8 versus 2.9 in July, 5 years from now, respondents see inflation at 3%. So they are writing the book of normalcy bias right now. This is how it is. It's going to be the same next year. 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. All right, so that doesn't bode well for the housing market. Why? Because they're all going, well, I just can't afford anymore. Inflation's going to be here. Housing prices are just going to keep going up. That's what everyone thinks. It blows my mind. That's what everybody thinks. Housing prices are just going to keep going up. Well, how? Well, they just are. How? Like, are people going to magically just get all this more rent or money in their pockets? They're going to get raises? Yeah. How? Well, because companies are going to pay them more. What, are they going to sell more stuff? And that's where the conversation ends. Are the companies going to sell more stuff to you at a higher price so that they can pay their employees more so that they can pay higher for a house? The answer is no. It's called a breaking point. And once that breaking point's hit, you're done. And we're going to hit that breaking point this fall. You watch. And I'll be the only one on YouTube telling you. I mean, it's insane. All these people that all they are, there's these paper millionaires running around. Look at me. I've been a millionaire since this date. And I've never even seen the Fed raise rates. They don't know what they're talking about. All right, it says the relative stability of inflation expectations last month came as the survey found respondents predicted accelerating price increases for a range of key categories in August. The survey found expected price gains for gasoline, food, rent, medical costs, and college. Respondents also predicted that the house prices would rise 3.1%, the highest reading since July of 2022. At the same time, survey respondents were more downbeat about the access to credit and their current and future financial positions. See, that's what they care about. That's what the consumer cares about. Like, I'm afraid you're not going to be able to give me more credit. Daddy Warbucks, turn on the credit machine. That's all that causes capital markets, real estate markets, anything, car markets to go up is cheap credit. So you have only one way that markets can go up, credit. And you've got 5 different ways they can crash down. All right? That's inflation, jobs, all of these things. Which side are you betting on? Type 2 if you think that you have more upside potential in the market right now than downside. Type 3 if you believe we are literally looking into the abyss right now. That's exciting. I want to take advantage of it. Now, let me see something real quick. All right. Let's get a little close and personal. Just checking the time. Let's do this. Let's dive into the next story, and this is really important. Out of the Financial Times, EU downgrades growth forecasts and raises inflation expectations. This is important. We are so tied to the EU, especially the Bank of England, it is pathetic, okay? The Federal Reserve, just an iteration of, it's like the Bank of England's little baby boy. Oh, daddy. You know, that's how it is, okay? So as Europe collapses, the EU collapses, understand that we're going to collapse. We've got about 8 weeks after they go down, okay? So they're downgrading growth forecasts and they raise inflation expectations. Okay, we're going to follow them. When their inflation rises, our inflation is going to rise. Revised figures come as ECB prepares for pivotal decision on interest rates this week. The EU, and mind you, they've been ahead of us. And most people say that they've been ahead of us because they're not the Fed and the Fed runs the world. That is not true, all right? England actually runs us. I know it sounds crazy, but we're still pumping money back to them. War's been fought for less than this. All right, it says here, the EU economy will expand by just 0.8% this year and 1.4% in 2024, according to the European Commission figures that lowered growth predictions and signaled the persistence of inflation. Monday's figures marked a downgrade from predictions by Brussels in May of 1% growth this year and 1.7% in 2024, with high prices hitting consumer spending across the bloc and German economy now expected to shrink this year. So look, right here, Brussels is calling it. They're like, oh yeah, when prices go up, the consumer has less money. But yet they're saying, oh yeah, the economy is going to grow slower. We're downgrading our assessment of the economy, the strength of the economy. But yet the consumer's not that bright. They go, oh no, Mondo just spend more money. Well, where does Mondo get the money from? Just boss. Where does the boss get more money from? His boss. Okay, are we going to keep doing this? Well, there's lots of bosses. And the consumer has no concept, truly, of where this growth is going to come from. They just say it's going to keep going. Houses are going to keep going up. Cars are going to keep going up. Everything's just going to keep going up. Because there's a wizard behind the green curtain in the land of Oz. Well, it's true. It's called the Federal Reserve Chairman. But at a certain point, the Federal Reserve Chairman stops pulling on the strings. It says here, the EU economy has lost momentum since spring, said Paolo Giattoni, the European Commissioner for the Economy. Economic activity stalled in the second quarter, and survey indicators point to further weakening in the coming months. Yeah, right? The fall. The new figures predict a contraction in German real gross domestic product of 0.4%. Why is this important? Because Germany is looked at as the strongest person, but Germany is the sick man. Understand that. Germany is what brought us down in 2008 because they went into a recession and had to renegotiate their debts in 2005, and that caused a ripple, a cascade into America. People don't understand that, but yet it's because they just don't know history, financial history. And that's not really deep history. The commission added that inflation would fall 6.5% this year, lower than its previous forecast of 6.7%. By the way, this is not the Economic Ninja channel. It's my backup channel. If you're not subscribed and have the bell icon, if you don't mind clicking it, I would really appreciate it. I bring totally different news on this channel. But it cautioned that inflation would remain at 3.2% in 2024, which is 0.1 percentage points higher than previously anticipated. Point being is that Europe knows that it's crashing, and it's doing stuff ahead of time to move into that crash. One of the things they're doing is accelerating rates. The Fed's scared to raise rates, but they have to raise rates. Even though I believe the Fed's going to pause in September, and I could be wrong, they could raise rates. I'm not a guru, but I do believe they're trying to lessen the blow of this collapse by giving these companies a slight reprieve each quarter, 1 quarter of not raising. But ultimately, what's going to happen the next month? Just like in July, we're raising again. And eventually, you're going to have to see a 50-point basis hike raise because inflation is exploding higher. It's getting out of control, and that's what's it called? Energy. Hey, you're going to notice below the link to the real estate course is $1,000, the full price course. Sorry, sale is over. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. The Economic Ninja, dang it, that's the wrong channel. Real Estate Ninja is out.